Something is off with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's making a little bit of sense. And when Marjorie Taylor Greene is making a little bit of sense, it's one of two things. She's either glitching or the universe itself must be collapsing in on itself. She's suddenly making sense about some issues. She's talking about inflation and wages and the Epstein files and discharge petitions. This is all stuff that she normally butchers. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene breaking with MAGA, or does she just care about these specific issues? Is she angling for re-election and thinks this is the way to do it? Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene on CNN talking about the Epstein files. And she says, listen, Adelita Grijalva has been elected. She's eventually going to be sworn in. They're eventually going to have the votes on the Epstein files. I don't understand what my fellow Republicans are doing.
Is the Jeffrey Epstein files, wanting to release those. I know Democrats have also been calling for that, a few other Republicans as well. The Democrats are accusing Speaker Johnson of delaying the swearing in of Arizona's Democratic Congresswoman-elect because she would give the last vote needed to release those Epstein files. I'm wondering, the Speaker, for his part, he has denied that. He said it's because of the shutdown. Have you spoken to him? Do you think she should be sworn in right away?
Well, I'll say it like this. I can't conclusively say if that's why the House is not in session, but the House should be in session. And the House should be in session for many reasons. We have appropriation bills that need to get passed. There is a new Democrat that's been elected that does deserve to be sworn in. Her district elected her. We have other bills that we need to be passing. And if it's to avoid the discharge petition, why drag this out? That is going to have 218 signatures. And so I say go ahead and do it and get it over with.
Listen, she is being sensible here. And what this suggests to me is that a lot of the right-wing nonsense we hear is performative. Now, we've had this conversation on the show before. Would it be worse if they were really as dumb as they appear to be? Or would it be worse if they were only pretending because they thought that that was the best way to curry political favor and support? At least with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I am starting to suspect that much of her public-facing persona is performative. She is actually describing the procedural situation accurately. That is rare for her. And it's weird to hear her sound like a legislator. She is frustrated because the leadership that she once supported doesn't have a plan and they are slowly losing control. She's not really rebelling against Donald Trump, at least not yet, but she's clearly annoyed to a degree with how ungovernable MAGA has become. Now, there was another interesting segment. She was on Tim Dillon's podcast. I believe Tim Dillon's a comedian primarily. And he asked her, what about Trump's administration in just doing things to improve the average person's life? And Marjorie Taylor Greene, with some inaccuracies, gives a pretty good assessment of where we are. Take a listen to this.
When you look at an issue like healthcare, an issue like affordability, has the administration done enough to help the quality of people's lives?
At this point, inflation is stabilizing sort of, but prices have not come down at all.
The job market is weakening.
Job market is still extremely difficult.
Right.
Wages have not gone up. Health insurance premiums are going to go up. Car insurance goes up every year. People's homeowners insurance goes up. Rent is going up. Young people have no hope of buying a home. And then when they try to buy a home, they end up, like I said,
When you look,
Marjorie Taylor Greene is mostly right about everything she said there. Now, inflation isn't really stabilizing. Inflation's actually slowly been ticking up in the 9 months since Donald Trump became president, but she's mostly right. Now, where I would go back at her is to say, Marjorie, you don't really have a functional plan for bringing prices down the way you said that Trump was going to back when you were supporting him during his campaign. You don't really have a solution to a lot of the problems that you're identifying. It's the Democratic Party that is at least proposing some solutions. They may not be perfect. They may not be politically viable. We are learning when Republicans control everything. But at least the Biden administration came in, identified real problems, had proposals, some of which they were able to succeed with and get through, and some of which they were not. Still, though, this is a different Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is a very different environment in which we find ourselves, where she is making a lot more sense. Now, there's a cynical sort of interpretation of this, which is she hasn't really had any change of heart. She just plays the same loyalty games as Trump. And as it seems that Donald Trump, to a degree, has stepped away from being associated with the Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert types, she is just shifting her loyalties, even though she has always held these beliefs. I would almost argue that that's worse. If you find someone who's just wrong about stuff, right? Like if you find a Republican who just, I don't know, he or she thinks tax cuts for the rich are good for the economy. Okay, they're wrong about that. Maybe we could lead them to the evidence and they might change their mind because they get information that they don't currently have. Okay, we can at least deal with that in a way, maybe not successfully most of the time, but we know what to do. If you find someone who knows what the truth is, but is committed to publicly doing whatever is going to get them the most attention or get them cozied up with whoever's in power, you can't really talk them out of that in the same way. They're not lacking information. They're just lacking an honest presentation of who they are and what they should be doing. So listen, I don't know how far this Marjorie Taylor Greene thing is going to go. Publicly facing, she's done a 180. Privately, I don't know what's going on, but it is interesting. And my view has been and continues to be, she's not a progressive. She's not a friend of the left. But where our interests overlap, which might be pointing out that this administration has been terrible for the average American, we should be able to go and say, even Marjorie Taylor Greene understands and acknowledges this. I'm sure we disagree with her about abortion. I'm sure we disagree with her about education and a whole bunch of other stuff. But even she can't deny what is so obviously in front of our faces, X. That's what I think the left should do with it. Let me know what you think. info@davidpakman.com.